Hi everyone. In this professional development session, we're going to look at ways to engage, inspire, and achieve active learning inside of our college classrooms. Active learning is going to be a major paramount in your classroom to get your students engaged in the material and help them to be inspired by it and relate it to their lives and hopefully take it to achieve their jobs and their future items that they're going to work on in the workforce. So active learning, what is this? It is the different strategies that we can use to enhance the student learning and help them with their achievement and foster some different dynamics in our classroom. And it really puts the instructor in a position of facilitating a little bit more than having to be the knowledge giver the entire time. And so it will often help improve the understanding that our students have, help them foster critical thinking skills, and help lead to higher academic success. I really like this little meme, I guess, if you want to call it that, little statement quote. If we create a culture where every teacher believes that they need improvement, not because they aren't doing a good enough job, but because they could do an even better job, there's no limit to what we can achieve. That's a really good point. Maybe you need to look at yourself and say, how can I reach the next level of performance? Or if you're happy with where you are right now, how can you help someone else reach the next level of performance? We should always try to lead our colleagues and help them out. So why do you want to lead, or why do you want to teach? When we're dealing with people, be it our students, parents that we might deal with, teachers, coaches, other leaders, it's always going to be something. There's always going to be somebody complaining or some situation that's not perfect. And so we need to look at the situation on how can we improve? What can we do for constant improvement? And we should look at the data that our classes are having, or the data that we're having come into our college, and how we can utilize that. And we should reflect on that data, adapt our items, and improve. As we go through with this, we've got to work on pushing our students, pushing ourselves, to move from that fixed mindset and move to a growth mindset. In our classroom settings, we look at active learning, it's going to be student-centered. We're going to do student-centered instructions and support strategies to help our students to move into that, again, growth mindset, develop some of those critical thinking skills, and achieve their goals. So we should look at what actions does our item that we're choosing to do in our classroom do to improve student learning. Just because you've always done this strategy, lecturing maybe, doesn't mean it's right. Does it improve student learning? Does it improve achievement? If it doesn't, then maybe you should look at something else. How do you know that that action improves achievement and expands that students' learning? You can look at some of your low-stakes assessments and items that we're going to use, but we can use our data again to get to that point. But hopefully we can use some high-impact strategies, some active learning techniques to improve their success and help close that gap between our high students and our low students. So we've got 3 supports pillars: engagement, relevance, and support to our student. We need them engaged in our classroom, actively learning there. We need to make it relevant to them. The relevancy drives the rigor. Sometimes our students are like, why are we doing this? And they don't want to just learn it for the sake of learning it. We have to make it relevant to their lives so that they're involved in it and enjoy it, and they'll go deeper with it and become more engaged. Active learning, again, is going to be our route to getting there. And again, we should look at our data and have data-driven decisions. Don't just do something for the sake of doing it. Know why you're doing it. When we try something new, hopefully it's to get better data and get better improvement and better engagement. And that might be your why initially. But if you're just doing it because you've always done it, you need to look at yourself on that. So this is from the Center for Community College Student Engagement. The number one reason that we saw that students leave the community college setting is because they don't feel connected. They should look at a nice student-to-faculty interaction. They want to feel that students have that relationship between their faculty members. We want to see it between our advising center and all of our other student support services. They need to know that we care, specifically that our faculty care. We're usually the go-to because we're in the classroom with them. So if they feel connected to the faculty, they're going to be more likely to reach out to the other services on campus and hopefully feel connected to them as well. With our students, if they are going to be lower minority, they end up being 5 times more likely to not succeed. And so we've got to try and help balance again and close that gap. When we look at working with any of our students in any setting, whether we're staff or whether we're faculty, we need to help respect the students, and we need to praise them in public and censor in private. That's a really big thing with our adult learners because a lot of them are first generation students and they don't have that support at home and they don't know these things. Even though it's a easy, simple question, they feel kind of that I feel dumb, I'm asking this question kind of answer. So we've got to try and make those answers as positive as we can and then not have any negative light to it to help them feel, again, that caring kind of aspect and that connection to our faculty members. We want to help them feel in control of that relevancy and feel in control of the process so that they, again, can hopefully become successful and go out into the workforce. So we want to inspire and facilitate the learning. Looking again some of the material from that community college survey that was done, upon graduation, if they get through without withdrawing or failing in their first 5 courses, their chances of graduating will be cut in half if they fail during one of those first 5. So those first 5 classes are the most important in their college career. That sets the tone of everything. And if they fail a second time in those first 5, it cuts it in half again. So we've got to really push to get our first year freshmen, our first time dual students, our returning students that are maybe older that didn't go to college immediately or even that went for a little bit and have decided to come back. We've got to get really attached to them and let them know that we care and get that connection built to them and be active in our classroom to get them to stay and hopefully cut that chance down. So if they do complete, if they don't have any of that, the chances are done double of them getting to graduation and being retained. As we look through, we want to know, what are you doing about that? What are you doing to help with this situation? Are you using active learning in your classroom? Are you losing some of these low-stakes assessments? Hopefully the answer is you're not doing nothing. The wrong answer is always doing nothing. So hopefully we can lift others up, be an encourager. There's enough people that are critics in the world, so we want to always, again, with our students, be positive no matter what we're doing. Always have that positive attitude. Don't have to see the whole staircase to take the first step. That's really hard for them. They don't want to fail, and they sometimes want to know where they're going. So we've got to support them in those failures that they may have, and we've got to help them take that first step and then those next steps to get to where they're going before they can see the whole big picture. So how do we get there? Of course, we have our course objectives and our unit objectives. Some of those are set forth by the state or by your department and division, but you should always be using those to contact the students with the information that you're trying to give them, using those action verbs so that they know what they need to do and how they're going to be tested. Ideally, in your online setting, you would have some lecture videos reaching out to those students to let them know more about it. We need active learning strategies, and that's going to involve some of this hand-holding and this caring as well. And we'll look at that list in just a minute from Dr. Yee and some others. We should use frequent assessments. Low-stakes assessments and early intervention are an easy way to get to our students and tell what they're doing, like to see a good picture of how they're doing. Are they learning the information or not? With our students on these low-stakes assessments, we can't assess them like we always have because we don't teach like we always have. Online learning has happened, the pandemic has happened, and so we've got a lot different of a student as far as how they come in and how they act with these different generations, but also just our teaching has changed over the years. Our techniques have changed. We hopefully are using more of these active strategies, and so we should use more of these low-stakes assessments as an active strategy to gauge where our students are and direct our classes. And then hopefully we're using reflection, which we learned a long time ago in our education classes. If we reflect on each lesson, if we reflect on our semester, and if we look at some of the data that the college pulls, we can tell a lot about what's going on in our classes and with our students. So let's look at some of these 289 active learning strategies that come from Dr. Yee and some others. There are a lot of them. As you can see, it's 20 pages. So we won't look at all of them, just some of the highlights. And they're broken down by topic or kind of area. And so these are some of the instructor actions that can be done during lecture. I personally really like that picture prompt. You show the students a picture and you get them to start some discussion based on that image. And again, the students are having to take that ownership of that process and they're having to connect it to their lives. So if you pick something that's relevant and really reaches to them, to bring that involved if it's something from the real world. Think breaks, using that wait time. It's hard for us to be quiet sometimes, but that makes a big difference. We can do a lot of questioning. We can use word clouds to guess. Poll Everywhere is a really neat program that will allow us to do some word clouds along with some of these others that are mentioned in the article. Turn my back, go away from the class and let them go through the process themselves. There's going to be, of course, a lot of group work in this example as well to do some active learning. Read alouds. We still have a lot of students, even though they're in college, that are not comfortable reading aloud or reading heavy amounts of material. And so if we break that down into smaller passages, if we work on that together, if we read, if we take some volunteers that don't mind reading out loud, we can really help with that. Word of the day, sometimes that gets them engaged in the day as well. Some other ones for small class size, passing the chalk, using the whiteboard to capture the material, having some town hall meetings. So lots of neat little things that can be done Student action mind dump is really helpful. You can let your students do that either the night before and turn it in, or even during your class at the beginning. Just tell us everything you know. And that's a great low stakes assessment. 1 minute papers, sometimes they're called exit slips and different things like that. Muddy points. All of those can tell you about what the students know and what they're confused about or don't know and what they'd like some more information on. Gallery walk, there's a lot of activities that can be done where you do stations. Photo homework, media breaks, they love using their smartphones. If we can incorporate them, they really like that. The media break is a great option. It doesn't sound like it's an active learning strategy, but it is, because it gives them that break during the class and helps them hopefully to become active during your time then when you are learning and working on the material, because they've already checked their snaps and their chats and all of those things, and they're ready to focus and put that away for the period of your class. Video selfie, there are lots of different things that can be used, not just Instagram and stuff, but lots of different recording softwares and programs and apps that come out and go with different years as to what's popular, but lots of those can be used to submit some information, or they can even submit it on your LMS, and they like doing, again, videos and things that they can use their smartphones for. Again, real-world connections, how does that have a connection to our real-world information? How can our students integrate that topic and what they're learning? Concept mapping, a lot of them really like using that. They've done it in K-12. Using a journal. Storytelling, get the students to share, not just the instructor. I really like that, because then some of those stories become my stories later on. So lots of items that we use. Lots of evaluation ones. You can evaluate an assignment. You can evaluate exams, do group work evaluations, and just kind of get their feedback on what they thought was fair, what they thought wasn't, and help those students know a little bit more about what they missed. Lots of items to do in pairs. Think, pair, share, a very old one that we all know about, but it's still a very good strategy. And sometimes we get a little bit lazy and we want to go back to that lecture setup, and we need to use some of these strategies to get them more actively engaged in learning in class. Do-si-do, another really good one. Give one, get one. So students hold up a piece of paper and they get one and they give one, and they're able to have partners and they pass around. It's kind of like think, pair, share, but just with a different method. In groups, things like jigsaw, and again, the gallery walk comes up. Having different sides, red side and green side, that they're able to work on. Brain drain, dividing them into groups again and giving them a task to work on as they brainstorm. Passing the problem. Just lots of good strategies that can be used. And most of these strategies don't require a lot of prep. They don't require you to do anything that you wouldn't already have ready with you. Again, audio and videotape items. Letting the students use their smartphones for some of that stuff. Sticky note discussions, they really like that one. Pinwheel discussions. This one's really great. Students love second chance testing. And it's another method of letting us do that first test as a low stakes assessment. We can throw it out, we can make it worth something, but we take down that severity of it. And so we can do stuff like deja vu. I really like that 80-20 rule. I don't usually let them know about the second test till it happens, or we're ready for it. But having them expect a second test, practice that information, and look at, I did really bad on that first one. I didn't know this stuff. I've studied a little bit more, and now I'm prepared again. Group tests, group grades, those can be done as well. Draw a partner. And again, all that can be done as low stakes. It doesn't have to be a high stakes assessment. Authorize cheating. Let them use their notes on exams. Let them use AI for some things maybe. But let them work with their friends for some of these items, because if they are taking the information, they are pulling it up, and they're utilizing it, and they're taking it and rolling it through their minds a little bit, they're going to start thinking critically with it. And that's what's more important, because anybody can pull up the information right now. It's the digital world that we said we wouldn't have a computer in our pocket, but we do. So we can pull up that information very easily. So we need to let our students learn how to utilize it, because it's a different world than it was when we first started teaching for many of us. Some other teaching strategies are mentioned again. YouTube, utilizing a lot of video clips and movies and things. Twitter involved even. Tablet items. You can do it with clickers, or you can use things like Quizlet and a lot of these other things that'll run off the smartphone or a smartphone app. Poll Everywhere I mentioned earlier. Just lots of neat things that can be done involving tech, and fairly cheaply because most of them have it in their pocket. Icebreakers, some great options there that we can use as well. Crossword puzzles and games, they love that. Jeopardy is one that I especially like. I've got a template I will send out to all of you as a follow-up to this PD session, and I will send out another one that is Wheel Decide, which is kind of like tossing the beach ball around, but it can be used virtually, or you can put more questions on it instead of having to have so many beach balls in your classroom. But they love doing games, and so there's a lot of easy ones that can be used. Pictionaries and are a fun one. I've got an icebreaker I used this past semester that is actually Jenga with questions and stuff, and kind of doing that would you rather, or what do you know, 2 truths and a lie, all those type things. They really like anytime they've got some games involved. Some student questions, let them do index cards or sticky notes and pass those questions around. Sometimes we hear stuff like fishbowl, and so those are really great to get them get that question out. Role playing can be used in different areas or different disciplines sometimes. Presentations, again, we can utilize those items to get them to present and share the information. And it can be done in an informal setting. Brainstorming, again, are group type activity that can be done. Online interactions, so some techniques that can be used if you have a synchronous or asynchronous class as well. So they continually are working on this list and making it even longer as they go through, but it gives a lot of options as to what we can do. And if we use some of those active learning strategies and we combine them with our low stakes assessments and we reach out to those students that are maybe at 70 and below, we can hopefully save a lot of them, especially if it's their first 5 classes, and get that connection and get that caring feeling. Because if they make 3 positive connections on campus and they're successful in those 5 classes, we've probably got them through their AS degree and hopefully onto even a BS degree for some of them. So here's the thought. Is it important enough to you? Because if it's important enough to you, you're going to find a way, and if not, you're going to find an excuse. So I hope student success is important enough to all of you, and you're willing to grow and change and do some of these active learning strategies. Consider some of them, and you can hopefully, again, apply it to your growth mindset. You're willing to be able to think more critically, think differently than you have. You're not just doing it how you always did because that's what we've always did, because that doesn't make it right. And so we want to have life success. We want our students to have success. We want to have lifelong learners built. And so again, it should be something that is important enough to you so you don't make an excuse. So hopefully this will be, reach out to me if you have any questions. I'll be sending up a follow-up email with some resources. Thank you all.